Well, hello there. Welcome to the Deadly Analysis Podcast. This is a spoiler-free review of the 2021 horror film Saint Maud. I really wanted to do a review of this movie like 2 years ago when it was supposed to be released. But the movie's been absolutely decimated by delays, none the least of which was because of our good friend, COVID-19. But it's here, so let's talk about it. Saint Maud, written and directed by Rose Glass, tells the story of, wait for it, Maud. I mean, it's in the title, Maud, who is a reclusive young nurse whose impressionable demeanor causes her to pursue a pious path of Christian devotion after she encounters a life-changing trauma. Now charged with the hospice care of Amanda, a retired dancer ravaged by cancer, Maud's fervent faith quickly inspires an obsessive conviction that she must save her ward's soul from eternal damnation, whatever the cost. So, here we are. It's 2021, and I have been looking forward to this A24 film for quite some time. And that kind of created a problem for me. I have hyped this movie up so much in my mind that, when I finally watched it on day one of its streaming release here in the United States, I was less impressed with the movie than I thought I would be. And that's not to say it's not a good movie. It totally is, and it's absolutely worth your time. I just built this movie up in my own mind, especially since it's an A24 horror film, and they tend to produce outstanding movies. So I guess word of the wise, try not to hype up movies that look fantastic because it'll just sit there and marinate in your mind and you'll almost be guaranteed to be disappointed. That said, what I love about this movie is this very interesting dynamic between a kind of fundamentalist Christian interpretation of purpose and a kind of agnostic atheist interpretation of purpose. You have Maud, on the one hand, who is this newcomer to the Christian faith and has all of that fervency and zealousness of a young new believer. And that's contrasted with Amanda, who's much older and simply doesn't believe that God is real. And so these two people have very different ideas about what end-of-life care is supposed to mean. I'll put it that way. Maud begins to believe that her entire mission in life is to save the soul of Amanda. And Amanda is in that last, sort of contemplative stage in her life where she's taking inventory of all of her experiences. She knows that death is coming, and so we see her drawing on old acquaintances and even injecting a small degree of hedonism into her last days on Earth. She just wants to experience the joys of her youth once more before she passes, and Maud sees this as anathema. She sees this as a sin, and this will produce some conflict. Conflict that will bring to the surface themes of loneliness, mental illness, and even sexual repression. Though to me, Saint Maud, when I watch Saint Maud, the movie sort of strikes me as more about loneliness than anything else. It's not like a let's shit all over religion type of movie at all. In fact, I think the film actually conveys the idea that the warped evangelical mindset that Maud succumbs to is actually a symptom of something else. Right? It's a way of, it's maladaptive coping to a large degree. Maud is isolated and she's lonely. She can't seem to interact with the world in any way that's stable. She just seems very out of place in this world, which is probably why Christianity, a very rigid form of it, has been so appealing to her. After all, it was Jesus who said to Pontius Pilate, my kingdom is not of this world, right? So there's this hopeful deference to the world after, to the life after, through which Maud will contextualize her actions here on Earth. And her actions tend to get more and more extreme. And interestingly, Maud's convictions about her faith are challenged quite a bit throughout the film. And each time this happens, she comes through the other side with really stronger and stronger convictions. There's this doubling down effect that we see grow until it culminates into the movie's climax, which is pretty wild. And without spoiling the ending for you, they made a very interesting decision with regard to a perspective shift towards the end of the film that I was not expecting. I'm not sure how it sits with me, but I could certainly see how the film was slowly leading up to it, and it kept me in a real state of dread. I felt a lot of dread watching this movie. It's a slow burn with a solid amount of tension that builds and builds. Oddly enough, and this may sound crazy, This movie reminded me of The Blackcoat's Daughter, which we did an entire, full-length analysis of on this podcast. I'll put the link to it in the description of this video. But it reminded me of The Blackcoat's Daughter in terms of, like, the lengths we're willing to go to in order to not be alone, like to have a purpose, or maybe we could cash it out as like to be connected to something bigger than ourselves that provides an overarching context or meta-narrative for our existence. Both Saint Maud and The Blackcoat's Daughter are largely about maladaptive ways of confronting loneliness. And in Saint Maud, I saw this as a more fundamental thing than the fundamentalist religion stuff that you see on the surface. There's something under that. There's something deeper in this movie. So this is a very moody, atmospheric, and panic-inducing film. There are elements of asceticism conflicting with hedonism, cognitive dissonance, genuine belief, and ultimately a brooding sense of climax. Like, I can't stress enough how much this movie leads up to its ending. It's like you sort of know what's about to happen, but you don't want to look, right? And I guess, that's a type of horror on its own, right? So overall, in my opinion, Saint Maud is a must-see horror movie for 2021. It's a diamond in the rough. It's cerebral horror done well. And it's definitely worth your time. If you've seen the movie, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If there's other themes that you think Saint Maud shoots out to its viewers, let me know. I'd love to hear maybe a very different interpretation of things. Anyway, shoot us a comment below, and thanks for watching.